to make sure that everyone that's coming is here. Well, I'll start. My name is Sharon Harvey. I am with the U.S. Small Business Administration at the Indiana District Office. Our goal is to help small businesses to start, to grow, and expand. We have one office in the state of Indiana, and our goal is to cover all 92 counties. So I am in South Bend today. I'll be in Gary tomorrow, and I'll be back whenever you need us to help you. You have questions, you can feel free to call us, email me, or I'll give you my government card. You give me 2 hours now. So, saying that today we're going to talk about government contracting. What is the certifications? What certifications are available? What are the criteria? What are the eligibility? We're going to go over some of the programs, the actual application process, some of the do's and don'ts, some of the things that can help you. But I encourage everyone, once you decide you're ready to start, that you contact any of us that are in this room that can help you, because we want to make sure that when you start in the application process, that we get you through the application process as smoothly. And we want you, a lot of times I'm going to be honest, there are times when we think we've done everything and the application is sent back because sometimes it's been uploading the document. I've seen it where we just didn't sign the document. So we're going to help you figure it out. We're going to help you grow your business. And so we're going to look at the state of Indiana. We're going to look at the SBA certifications, and we're going to tell you the eligibility. So the first person I'm going to bring up is Diana Hunter with the Indiana PTAC. And okay, Diana.
What's this little box? This meeting? Okay. There we go.
Okay. Well, like she said, thank you for your attendance here today. And we certainly appreciate you taking the time to come and invest in yourself and your company. Like it says, I'm Diana Hunter. I am North Central. I kind of explained that we switched over. And so now I'm with the North Central. Indiana PTAC's mission. Basically, we're here to enhance the defense and economic development in Indiana by basically supporting Hoosier businesses, help them win federal, state, and local contracts. And basically, I like to say we're kind of the in-between liaison that can help you secure those opportunities that are out there that you might not know about. We help them get through the different local governments, making sure that you're registered, making sure that you have all of the things in order that you're going to need, because there's nothing worse than you submitting a bid and them saying, well, you don't have this or you don't have that. I like to say that you're shovel ready when you work with PTAC.
Diana, can I say one thing?
Sure.
I forgot to say we're going to kill you death by PowerPoint, but the only reason we're doing that is because our slides are very detailed, and we will make sure that everyone gets a copy. You'll probably get it Thursday evening or Friday morning, but it's going to have all the information. So I'm glad you're taking notes, but please rest assured that you will get the information, and we want to make sure that you remember what we're talking about. So that's why we have a lot of information on these slides, to make sure that you remember all the detailed points.
Come on in. It's fine. Say we're just getting started. So Indiana PTAC prides itself on these items that we have here. One-on-one counseling. With PTAC, it's not a one and done. It's not something that I'm going to meet with you one time and then you're going to be lucky to get a hold of me again. Okay. Yes, I'm serving a lot of different communities. I'm serving a lot of different businesses, but we can always get you on the schedule to get an appointment. So we offer that one-on-one counseling. It is a journey. It is not a one and done. Subcontracting assistance, we often will have people that will contact us, different agencies, different primes that say, okay, I might have a prime in Evansville that is looking to do business here in the South Bend or Gary region, and they need somebody to partner with. So they're looking for that. I actually have a PTAC client that works out of Michigan City, and she has had contracts now in North Carolina. She is a 4-man business. So she has had different governmental opportunities for awards, but one of them was in North Carolina. Another one has been in Missouri. And so she hires people. Well, what do? We get on our PTAC, and we're in all 50 states, so we can contact them. Who do you have? And so likewise, other businesses do the same to us. Bid match service. So we have this service that we can take all of your NAICS codes. How many of you are familiar with the NAICS code? Okay. And with the NAICS code, just so that you have every industry is assigned a code. And that is the North American Industry Code. And so it is 6 digits. And so we can take those codes, your industry, your keywords, we put them into your profile, and then they'll send solicitations to you, opportunities directly to your email. But that is after we make sure that you have everything in order. And when I say in order, are you registered in SAM? Do you have a capability statement? Are you a disadvantaged small business? So there's lots of different factors that we get to for that. Proposal preparation. While I cannot write your proposal, your bid submission, I can be an extra set of eyes that we can look at that. We also have, and I spend a lot of time in this arena, certifications and registrations. I spend probably 75% of my time with clients making sure they're in the system correctly, that they have the certifications that they need to be prosperous. Assistance with the federal regulations and military specifications. So when we're saying that, there is a FAR regulation, which it means this is how they are doing with the federal acquisition regulations. And so we point you to those. We make sure you have an understanding of that. Networking opportunities. Just like at this event, you should never leave here without at least 3 business cards or 3 connections. Anytime that you're at an event and you can network within the room, I can guarantee you there is something that you will learn from all of them. Whether it's, yes, I came today and this lady told us about DAU. Wasn't on the agenda, but yes, you got that information. Workshops and trainings. Indiana PTAC on their website, indianaptac.com. It's on the bottom of my card. And you can go on and look at the events that we're having. In April, we'll have a Buy Indiana event. That is with Crane Naval Base. How many of you have ever heard of Crane Naval Base? Okay, I got a couple. One bad one here. Crane Naval Base is actually one of 7 in the world, and it happens to be in southern Indiana. They do $4.3 billion worth of awards every year. The state of Indiana has a very small piece of that. And we're trying to encourage our Indiana small businesses to start looking at that. Start looking at those opportunities that are out there, because they have all different types of areas. And then the other major thing that I want to tell you is that all of these services that we offer is at no cost to the small business. It's not going to be one of those things that, oh, you can come in and you can do this section. And then when we get over here to the meat and potatoes and the desserts, well, for a fee, I can give you that information. Nope. All of our services are free. I'm a state of Indiana employee. So I get a weekly paycheck, or a bi-weekly paycheck. So we do that. And so I'm not getting any kickbacks. I wish. Don't we all wish that we could have that type of an incentive? But I am very happy in the job that I have. Next up is Sharon. Oh, is it not? You put my stuff on your slide?
You can keep going.
I can keep going. Oh, well, thank you.
Only that one.
It's only that one. Okay. Well, I thought, well, she's came up in the middle of mine, so I'm gonna let her. Let me sweep it over here.
I just took yours out and replaced it with that.
Okay. So anyway, when we're looking at this, why buy from small businesses? Why do you think the government would buy from small businesses? What type of items do you think the government buys?
Everything.
You're right, everything. I have, you name it, paper clips, toilet papers, food. I was at an event with Softworks, which was in Indianapolis, which they are part of SOCOM with the military forces, and they came in and they gave a presentation. They actually did a small contract with a vendor that was in Indianapolis. She provided all of the box lunches. So you never know. I can be with a cupcake maker one day. I can have a rocket scientist the next. I can be with a manufacturer, and I can be with a landscaper all in the same day. So they buy anything that the American public consumes. The government buys also. I have a company that is in, Valpo. I'm sorry, the name, I could see it and just didn't come with me. And they produce playground equipment. And I thought, okay, this is going to be a challenge. I haven't had a playground equipment person before, but they actually built them. They received an award with Indian Affairs, and their playground equipment is on some of the reservations. So you never know where your product is going to end up. In the demographics that we have now these demographics that we have on this page was for the metrics of the year last year. So with that, we know that of the awards that was giving out to the state of Indiana, that 35% of them were women owned. 14% of them were minority owned. 11 went to service disabled vets. 19 went to vet owned. And 3% was with a hub zone. We know the top 5 agencies, the ones that we had the most contracts with the state of Indiana, was the Department of Defense, the VA, NASA, Department of Health and Human Services, USDA. Another one that was very close, they always become very close when we talk about the top 5 with USDA. It's either USDA or it's the Department of Interior. Now, the Department of Interior includes a lot of different services. Our national parks fall underneath them. Our Department of Indian Affairs falls under them. So any little agency that, in my opinion, that they didn't know where else to stick, they stuck it with Department of Interior. So that's another one that is really big. And I have been fortunate in the northern half, because I now have to say Northwest and North Central. I had contracts in all of these top 5 with my clients. Now, I'm not guaranteeing you that we'll do the same on your journey, but what I want to tell you is that there's opportunities out there and we go after them. Let's talk about first things first. Where do you need to register first? Secretary of State. You need to register as a vendor with the Secretary of State. And why is that important? With that Secretary of State, if you are not a vendor, the state of Indiana cannot pay you. So that's where it becomes very important. I don't know whether any of you know about secure all cabinets. They're a flammable cabinet that you can store paint and that kind of thing in. They're actually manufactured in LaPorte, Indiana. Previous to taking my PTAP job, I worked for NDOT. and I ordered 14 of those cabinets. Now I'm saying this because this is something that I just went, oh, you've got to be kidding. It was my first purchasing that I had done with the department for maintenance. And I ordered those cabinets and I paid shipping from Kansas City, Missouri. And my shipping charges took me over my allotted budget amount that I was authorized to spend. So that nice little auditor that came through said, you know, you can't do that. It was my first one. She was nice about it, but I never forgot that it came from Kansas City, Missouri. Now I take this position and I get a call. Secure All cabinets are made by A&A Sheet Metal out of LaPorte, Indiana. That office, that manufacturer is 5 miles from where I purchased within that. So I paid shipping from Kansas City, Missouri to LaPorte when they were manufactured 5 miles down the road. And so A&A Sheet Metal was saying, contacted PTAC, we know that they're buying our cabinets, but we don't know why they're not buying them direct from us. And the whole reason was because they didn't register with the state of Indiana to be a vendor. So that is very important. You get to contact the Secretary of State through NBIS, and that information is out there. I've got it on my information that we'll be also covering later. You need to know the players. Indiana Department of Administration, IDOA, that's where you're going to register. Once you become a vendor, you will do so with IDOA, Department of Administration. NDOT, they're another important part because they are the ones that certify for our disadvantaged small businesses in the state of Indiana. I'm going to put these all up here just so that I don't have to click it. So what are the contracting vehicles? Well, you can have publicly advertised. In other words, this would be on sam.gov. It could be in USA Spending. It could be on the Dynamic Small Business Search. And so that's one area that you could find opportunities that are out there. GSA. Now, GSA have schedules, and those schedules that you have are opportunities for a fixed price buy. In other words, they're going to take it down to what is the best price for this product, and agencies, government agencies can buy from this schedule and not have to bid it out. It's a multiple award schedule. These are all schedules. In other words, it is something that you can buy in different areas. And when I say buy in different areas, in other words, if it is, I'm trying to think of an assembly piece, and it is, here's the top part, here's the middle part, and here's the bottom, but yet there would be contracts for all of them so that it was one complete. That might be a multiple award. Unadvertised opportunities. I'm going to be real honest with you. A lot of them go unadvertised. So how do you get in and how do they know about your company? If it is under $25,000, they do not have to bid for it. All they have to have is 2 quotes. So if they are not familiar with your company, if you haven't marketed your company, if they don't know about you, they can get it. Prime example of that again from NDOT. I had people that mowed for me. I had like 5 agencies that mowed, and I knew that I could do a contract under $10,000 and I could do it with multiples and I didn't have to advertise it. If I hit that $10,000 mark, then I had to advertise it. So how did I find out about those? Because they had done past experience with me. Also, we could advertise that we were seeking information. It's known as sources sought or a request for information. Oftentimes you will hear people talk about an RFI or a sources sought. That means they're compiling lists. I have a young man that is in Northwest, and he is in a little tiny town. And he was a single person in his business, and he found out that there was opportunities selling batteries to the Coast Guard. Now, that is a $1,200 order. It was not going to be on an advertised opportunity, but they did a sources sought, and he responded to it. He has now been in business for 4 years. He has a repetitive standing order for $1,200 with the Coast Guard. That was his starting point. So you don't have to start great big. It can be a very small item. You have to take possession of those items. You can't drop ship them. You can't do anything like that. So those batteries come to his house. He has a garage downstairs, and he assembles them, packages them in about 6 packs, labels them, and sends them to the Coast Guard. So that's just an example of that. Subcontracts. We've already talked about some of the subcontracting that we have. Primes will take and get it, and then they're going to be looking for those that can supply it. How many of you heard of AM General? They just received a huge award. So you're going to see things coming out about the supply chain, and they're going to start going down tiers. We're talking 4th and 5th tiers with them. But again, it's knowing who has that and how can you get in front of them. And PTAC has networking opportunities that allow us to get in there. When do these take place? Basically, the fiscal year is from October 1st to September 30th. So when do you think your busiest time, if you're a company working with the government, when is your busiest time going to be? Anybody take a guess? What was that?
End of the year.
End of the year. You've got it. They've got money that if they don't spend it, they're going to lose it. Either use it or lose it. So that's going to be a real busy time. So when we're looking at this, and you're trying to get all of your certifications done, I always tell everybody, think about it. You're in the beginning of the year right now. So now's the time to get all of this in order, because the busy time of the year is going to happen at the end. And so you want to be prepared for that. So that's when their buying happens. Now, newly identified needs. All of us have that situation. They can get into the middle of a project and find out that they need this part right now. Who can they go to? And so they have those emergency needs that they're tending to. Natural disasters and national disasters. Sharon knows all about that, don't you, Sharon? Sharon works a lot with FEMA. So, and when I was with NDOT, I did a lot with emergency management. So when the flood hit in southern Indiana, I was on communications. I was an NDOT worker, but I was pulled to do that communications. So we have that. You always have those emergency things that are going to happen that's going to take precedence. During COVID, I had a company that was in Plymouth, Indiana. And it sounds kind of morbid to talk about it, but he made body bags. And so his company had a tremendous opportunity then to produce that. We also had the chip emergency in Kokomo, Indiana, took some of that. So we always have those national. 7 steps to government contracting. And in that, we have these, and I'm not going to read each one of those because the next slides will go over. But they are the 7 steps to success. And with this, you need to ask yourself some questions, and I'm going to go over these because I have them, but I'll forget one if I don't look at it. So I'm going to go into it real quick with you. And because they're important questions. And I just gotta get up. So do you have an existing commercial base? You know, they want someone who has been in existence for a couple of years so that you have your feet wet, so that you know how to do business. And do you have resources? Do you have people? Do you have marketing material? Do you have a capability statement? Do you have the equipment necessary to do your job? Do you have business cards that has all of the information that the government is going to want? Like, does your business card have your SAM registration, your code in it? Does it have your UEI? We'll talk about that. Your NAICS codes. Does it have your unspec codes? Unspec codes are what states use. NAICS is what federal use. What about the military and government? PSC codes. Do you have those on your business card? Are you e-commerce literate? Do you know how to interact on the internet? Do you have a business plan? Do you have a strategy designed? Can you meet the government's needs? And when I say that, can you provide the quantity? Not that I want to provide the quantity, or I have the possibility, but I got to get funding first. Do you have all of that in order? Do you have the delivery? Do you have shipments? You know, if they need it on pallets and they need it shrink wrapped, can you do that? You need to make sure you understand what the government's needs are. And here's one that I always say, oh my, can you be focused and patient? It is not a get rich quick scheme that we have when we're working with the government. It's just not. Can you make money doing it? If you can't make money working with the government, then you don't need to be doing it. I've had people who have taken a contract saying that they have a small marginal profit and have one oops, and now that company is bankrupt. One major accident and it's gone. That's the reason why when we say you need to have a stable commercial base and give yourself the patience to work that in your company and be solid in it. You can't put all of your eggs in one basket because something might happen to that basket. So you want to make sure that you can make it. Because if it's not going to make you money, then don't do it. You need to know who your competitors are. Who's your competition? I was working with a company this morning, and they make Dutch waffles. Now I had to tell you, I had to find out what a Dutch waffle was. It is a cookie that has caramel in between it, and they're ooey gooey and scrumptious. Okay, they sugar high, but I can't have sugar. One little bite of that, and woo. But when we was working with that, we found out that in the state of Indiana, she has 3 competitors. That's it. In all 50 states registered in SAM, there's 113. So she has a very good market, and she's located in Plymouth, Indiana. So, you know, it's one of those that her little small shop that she's doing, and she's doing well. She's selling to Sam's Club. She's selling to Rise and Roll. There we go. Yeah, she's selling to Rise and Roll because that's where I found her product first. Was there. And so the other thing that you need to know are what are the trends and what are the events that affect the needs for your company and your services. What happens during a recession? What happens during COVID, a national emergency? What are your resources and who are you going to reach out to? And then you need to know, where do you get help? And so we always say there's always help around. And we know that Sharon's group is always available to, I can always call and say, what if? I'm here, I'm stuck. And am I on the right path? Because I'm going to tell you, we learn right alongside of you. When it comes to the Women-Owned Small Business application, I had the opportunity to sit down with a woman-owned small business, and I got to go through that application process. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I am going to tell you I learned a whole lot from it. Because and we learn together on a lot of this. So the initial registrations, when we talked about the North American industry codes that we have and the unspec, we need to know what you have and know your product well enough to know this is the area that it's going to be in. United Nations Special Products and Services codes, the unspec, those are state codes. They are 8 digits. They will have keywords attached to it. I always tell people when you're starting to look at this, look at your NAICS, make a spreadsheet. Keep those NAICS codes and the keywords that they put with it together. Make your list for the unspec, their keywords that they put with it. The product service codes, which are military, they're 4 digits. So they will have, and with the product service codes, I always like to say they're kind of the umbrella. There are not going to be as many codes for the product service codes because they group them all together. So all of these are going to fall underneath them. When we talk about the SAM, System for Awards Management, how many of you are registered in SAM? Okay. So when you go in and you register for that now, they're not only going to ask for you to have a positive ID. I always tell people be prepared. They're going to ask for that driver's license to be uploaded. The state of Indiana has that nice little protective coating on it, has little race cars on it. And if you have an overhead light, it's going to glare and it's not going to pick it up. So I always tell people, make sure that you're aware of your lighting when you put that in. I had a vet that I worked with for probably 3 hours before we figured that out. He kept putting it in and it kept rejecting it. I say, try this, and it didn't work. And so we finally got it figured out. It was just the lighting in his office was putting a glare on it. And it looked fine on his end, but they couldn't read it. So we know that when you register that, you will also receive a unique entity ID. It's known as a UEI. This has replaced DUNS. We no longer use the DUNS numbers. And so you are assigned a UEI. Now, the other thing that we like to talk about is when you register in the SAM.gov, you are going to be given an SBA profile. And so that profile will then show up in the dynamic small business search. Whatever you enter into that, when you're entering in SAM, I know a lot of times we get in that urgent mode and we need to get that number and you don't fill everything out completely. And when you don't fill everything out completely, guess what happens? It transfers over. And so then the dynamic small business search, when you go on there and look at it, it'll have your name and it might have your UEI, but it will not have the supplemental pages that you need to add. And so all of those are critical to starting the contracting opportunities. So remember, all of these registrations are free. I just worked with a gal. She's out of South Bend. Just met with her 2 weeks ago. And I was staggered. She paid $5,900 for somebody to register her in SAM. She
600.
You paid 600. Okay. These are free, folks. The only thing you are paying for at this point is them to do your data entry. You have to provide them with all of the information and they're going to put it in for you. They're going to let you know when it's up for renewal. And so that's what it is. Now, she not only got into $5,900 for a SAM. She also got into someone that said they were going to get her registered as a woman-owned small business, and she paid $22,000 for that.
Oh, dear Lord.
She-
The argument that is made though, when you go in to get the UEI, is you get ambushed. And, the argument is timing. That
Yes,
if you need it sooner than later, that if you don't make that financial
investment.
investment, that you could be waiting months.
Oh, how well we know. We've heard it all.
Well, is it true? Can I get it in 24 hours?
No.
You can get it in 24 hours with you putting the data entry in.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they are operating a business just like you are. It's just that they're kind of using tactics that I would say just are not true.
So this is what SAM looks like when you go to it. And you will notice that there are 3 little stars in the hat. You will notice that there is a star in between SAM and Gov. Some of the other sites I have seen will act like they are this site. And I'll admit, when you Google sam.gov and it pops up, there's a whole stream of stuff there. And you have to make sure that you're on the right one.
Probably number 10 is probably the right one, because the first 10 that are gonna come up are gonna be the ones that people pay to get you to pay for the services.
And so what I look at,
That's true.
and what I always tell people when I'm counseling, if it says Gov, it's free. And it has if it says COM, it costs me. So, those are the things that you can look at. What is a dynamic small business search? This is what that dynamic small business search looks like when you pull it up. It is a public search for businesses to be identified as small. If you are a large business, if you are a nonprofit. I have a number of nonprofits that will come to me and they told me I had to register in SAM. Yes, to do a lot of the grant work. My husband is a trustee for our small county of Tipton, and he had to go in and register because he receives funds for the county. So you can have that, but it will only show up in the dynamic small business search if you are a small business. And, this is how companies can put out there your capability statement, your NAICS. Contractors can use this to find you. This is like the yellow pages for small businesses. Contracting officers, I'm going to tell you right now, they rely on this tremendously. And if they go into your site and they look at it, and they don't find a capability statement, they don't find that you have equipment, because there's supplemental pages that you can add on there that will provide that information. When we talk about small business certifications, there we go.
I just put ours in red.
So with this, you can also mark in the SAM registration, the small business. You get to select that. The disadvantaged small business, there's also a box that you can check on that in SAM. But these are all of the certifications: small business, women-owned small business, known as a WOSB, minority-owned business, the disadvantaged business enterprise, disadvantaged small business 8A program, Hub Zone, the veteran-owned small business, also known as an SDVOSB. And then the state of Indiana has certifications. Cities have certifications. Those are for disadvantaged business enterprises, minority business enterprise, women-owned small business, and one that is not on here, the state of Indiana does have a veterans also. And with that, I am over to Miss Sharon.
And you'll be back.
And I'll be back.
Can I ask a real quick question?
Sure, anytime.
When is it important for the people in the room here to spend the time, the energy and effort to pursue those certifications?
I'm getting ready to explain it.
Okay.
I'm getting ready because we've thrown a lot at you in this first 30 minutes. Honestly, we could talk about contracting. It could take us a day to really get into it. I know we've thrown, of course, with the government, we like to use a lot of acronyms. I know, you're like SAM.gov, NACS codes, UEI. Sounds like a lot, or it sounds difficult, but most of it is once you go into these portals and enter your information, then the UEI you'll get. SAM.gov is just a registration portal.
I'm sorry, we're sharing the screen right now.
So you
So
need me to
the
move?
people online are hearing that, but if you step right in front of there you go.
You know
Stay closer to
you know
this
I
side
move
so it's just
around.
in the screen. There you go. All right.
What we want to do today, and the first thing that, like Diana said, we've had people, you got the 5,900. I just had a $30 the other day, and I was like, oh my God, they took me for $30. But we're here to help you. So, our job is you call us, you send an email, you make an appointment, and we're here to help you through the journey. So we're here to help you when, she mentioned GSA. They're having a lot of issues with their portal. If you're having problems, call us. We'll make some calls to try to figure out what's going on with the portals and how can you actually figure out what's going on. But the key thing I want you to walk away with today is we're here to help. There is a lot of money that is out there for small businesses to access. And we just want you to understand where you are. How did we help you find the agencies that are buying whatever it is that you sell, make, or your services that you provide? We're here to help you figure that out. The first thing that we want to do is to make sure what you're selling, is it the state that's buying it? Is it any of the federal agencies that are buying them? Do you meet any of the eligibility, or do you fit up any other criteria? Are you a woman? Are you a veteran? Are you underserved? What is it, so that we can help you figure out? As she mentioned, I think she mentioned searching. We can actually search and see, is this agency buying, are they looking for are there janitorial needs? I know when the census was out, if you sold red rubber bands, everybody in the world that sold red rubber bands sold every red rubber band that they had, because the census bought every one that there was out. So helping you figure out who's buying what it is that you need and where they are, how can we help you get there? And then I will say, she mentioned RFIs or requests for information. Once you register and you start this journey in contracting, if you receive an email, if you have a question about is this legit or if it's not, we can call 9 times out of 10 the procurement officer's phone number, emails there. As she said, if it has gov, if they're legit, they're going to answer the phone. Whoever agency, but that's how they figure out this piece of pie that they're putting together. Is there anyone that can even perform? So the agencies, they would love if they could just put it out here and say, here you go. But what they want to do, because the government says that 23% of your contract has to be broken up and it has to be given to small businesses, then they have to break it up. But the key is they want to figure out who that small business is and what part of the budget that they have, who can actually do the work. So when we're looking at that, because we're looking at socio and economic categories. As Diana mentioned, we have our women-owned small business, which is 5% set aside, and there are next code categories that we'll go over a little later. We have our small disadvantaged business, which is our 8A program. It is a 9-year program. And for those of you that came in later, we will be sending these slides out, because I see some of you really writing diligently. And then we have our hub zone, which Tawana will talk to you about in just a second. But it's basically based on the location. So we'll go over that. And we chose South Bend to go, to cover the hub zone because a lot of the coverage area in South Bend is actually located in a hub zone. And then we have our service, disabled veterans, what happened to my screen?
Stop that, I'm sorry.
We have our service disabled veterans, and then also starting in January, SBA is now doing the certification for, any veteran. Are there any veterans in the room? No. Pastor Hardy, okay. I love you though.
Thank you.
I love you dearly. And then as Diana talked about some of the thresholds, so some of the opportunities, are, come on, where's my screen? Some of our opportunities are, wait a minute, is this not working?
Let's get you back on sharing screen.
There we go. What'd you do to me? Yeah. Am I sure? Okay, with that being said, Tawana's gonna come and she's gonna talk to us about the hub zone, and then she can fix the screen.
Hey,
Why is it not?
got me continuing to wear these hats.
There we go. Yeah, that, because I can't see. My glasses, I got paper glasses and contacts and everything. I don't know what, Mr. Summers, what did you do to me?
I probably clicked the wrong button, I apologize.
Is it working? No, but it's not advancing.
I think you're sharing the screen now.
I know, but it's not advancing. You can use that. You just have to use the mouse. The up and down. I got it. I know how to do this. I got it. That's what I said. You come get your own screen.
So as she said, my name is Tawana Wilson. I am the Hub Zone Liaison at the Indiana District Office. We are located in Indianapolis. I have been there at that office for approximately 10 years now. So as a liaison, I want to kind of let you know what my role there is. So the Hub Zone office is actually located in DC. So when you submit your applications will go into DC. I'm taller than her. So, yeah, sure. So your application will actually be submitted to DC. It does not come to me or to our office. So as the liaison, what I am here to do is to help you know what you need to be eligible, help you know what you need to do to certify, and help you know how to stay certified. And then if you have application problems and you can't get your application information done, you don't know what to do, or you're stuck, then I can help kind of walk you through that process as well. I have a sample of the application here. It's about 10 pages long when you go in. Looks like this. It's quite long. So you have all these fields you gotta get filled in. So the long application. Keep going here. I think I got one more here. So I can help you with these steps and how to do this application. It looks overwhelming, but it's not as hard as it looks. We can definitely get you through it. So, now I am hitting the wrong thing. Oh, there we go. Did it advance? Okay, there we go. So, does anyone know what Hub Zone actually stands for? No, no. You do? I'm gonna put you on the spot. What is it?
Well.
Yep, you're getting there. Yep, it's historically underutilized business zone. So basically an area where historically has not had a lot of business in. So the goal of the program, the purpose of the program is to provide federal contractor assistance for those small businesses in those areas because we want to increase employment opportunities, we want to increase investments and economic development in those areas. So I don't know. Oh, it's right there. I don't know what I'm looking at. So how do we become eligible for this program? So first of all, you need to be a small business according to SBA standards. And that is determined by your NAICS code. I know you've heard that a lot, is the NAICS code. So your NAICS code is what determines you as a small business. So basically, you can go into NAICS.com, but you can also go to the Hub Zone website, and there's links on the Hub Zone website. You click it on there, you put in there your beauty shop, it'll tell you what your NAICS code is. You put in there that you do contracting, or not contracting, construction, it'll tell you what your NAICS code is. So next, we need to be 51% owned and controlled by a U.S. citizen. So a lot of people say, well, there's two of us. Are you U.S. citizens? You're 51% owned by U.S. citizens. So because people say, well, I'm 50%, he's 50%, but you're both together. So you're 51%. So that covers your 51%. You need, or you can be, a CDC, which is a Community Development Corporation, and that is a 501(c)(3) not-for-profit organization that supports revitalization and in impoverished or struggling communities. And then you need to be an agricultural cooperative, which is also known as a farmer's co-op. You have to have your principal office located in a hub zone. So the principal office is the location where the majority of your employees report to. So I work out of my house. Everybody shows up at my house and they get their instructions, they go out for the day. Your house needs to be in a hub zone because that's going to be your principal office location. They do not work in the office. They work at a job site, but they report to you every day for their information to go out. Yes.
But I just want to back up for a question, for the 51%. If I'm a US citizen, but my wife is not,
Okay.
and we both own the business,
Then no.
then the US citizen has to be
The
51% of the
owner.
ownership.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So yes. Yes.
Or maybe something about with the employees, if the employees are
That's the 35%.
35. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The ownership has to be 51% control. Yeah. And you have to show your proof of citizenship. So you have to have a driver's license, a state ID, I think a registration card, a passport. You can use any of those things, a naturalization card. If you were, you moved here from Mexico, you got your citizenship. Those things you need to prove that you're a US citizen. Did I see another hand?
So one person is 51%.
As long as if you 100% own the company, then yes, you're considered 51. You have to be 51% or more. So you just have to meet that 51%. Any more questions on that one? Yes?
The CDC has to be in the hub zone.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. If that's your principal office location. Okay. So yeah, and your principal office is where the majority of your people report to, not work at, because you can have job sites, you can have a warehouse, you can have, you do tow trucks, they're not gonna work there, they're gonna be on the street doing towing. So they have to report to that location. Any more questions on that one? Okay.
I mean, the CDC has to be a 501(c)(3).
Correct. Okay, and then the last one is the 35% rule. So 35% of your employees must reside and live in the hub zone. So yes, and then you also have to show proof of that, and I think that's on my next slide, by the maps. So this is what the map looks like when you go to the hub zone map to get your eligibility. So you should see that green qualified over there. So once you go in there, you'll put your address in that search code, you'll hit it up, it'll come up and tell you if you're in a qualified zone or not. It'll turn gray if you're not, it'll say not qualified, but if you are qualified, it'll turn green. So when you do your application, you have to print out this map and then send it for your principal office location. And then you also have to send it for your 35%. So you'll need to go print this map out, say Tawana Wilson lives at this address, and it shows that you're at meeting your 35%. And then your 35% also has to show their proof of residency. So they need to submit a driver's license with a current address on that matches the hub zone address. If it does not, there's other documentation you can include, but it becomes a little bit more in depth. So
They can live in any hub zone.
any hub zone. Yeah.
That's like I have a company that is in, Hammond.
Mhm.
And they have an office, that's their headquarters, that's where most of their work is done. But they also have a shipping out in Las Vegas, and they have one in Chicago. And so all three of those compile. Their employees are in 3 different cities,
Mhm.
but
As long as they report to the principal office. Yes, ma'am.
How many hub zone registered facilities do you have here in South Carolina?
Well, actually, we didn't use an address, we put in just South
This is
Bend.
just South Bend.
We just put South Bend, so that's all,
Yeah.
South Bend right there.
Well, I know that, I'm saying like, what is your percentage that is already? hub zone?
The number of we have hub zone offices that are here in just for South
Honestly, when we're
Bend.
talking about the state of Indiana, our hub zone number is very low, that's why we're trying to increase it.
It's a very
Well, we're not
underutilized
getting-
program.
we didn't answer your question.
No, my question is, what is the percentage of hub zone?
That are already certified. What percentage of hub zone
businesses?
businesses?
Right, I know that
that
because you're
number.
saying that it's 3%. I am a hub zone facility, so I know that for a fact that it's low. But
Yeah,
what
I don't know the exact number.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd have to pull the statistics on
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
Okay.
I knew him,
She used- that's why I looked over there. She usually knows.
Ago, but,
Okay, I know it's low. I know it's low.
yeah, I mean, when I say low, it's embarrassing low.
It's okay though.
Yeah.
We'll do better.
So- But if you're hub zone and you're not getting any awards, or they're not what you think they need to be, then we need to talk.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's a very underutilized program. I think it's a very good program. It's one of the easier programs to be qualified for. It is a lengthy process, and I think that is what discourages people from applying for the program. So they will come back and say, well, I need this and I need that, and I need this and I need that, and they feel like they go back and forth and back and forth. But the benefits in the end are really, really advantageous to your company if you just go through the process. And it's actually one of the programs that does not have a time limit on it, as long as you stay certified. As long as you qualify for it, you can remain certified. So as long as you keep the 35%, the 51%, the PO office, as long as those things remain, you can be a HubZone certified company for the next 50 years, as long as those things remain. Yes.
I'm sorry, I just came in.
You need a seat.
No, I have a seat.
Okay.
I just want to let you guys know your audio is echoing when you doing your online.
Oh,
I've been having a hard time hearing. I just drove here from Maryville, and I couldn't hear most of what was being said.
thank you. Okay. Do we have any more questions before we go from the eligibility requirements?
So, but there's no, the 35% just means of any employee needs to be resident in HubZone.
Mm-hmm.
There's no ethnicity, minority, anything.
Nope.
No,
Nope.
it's
35% of your
employee base.
Yep. So we talk about the benefits of the program.
Yeah, go.
I just made it worse.
You want me to keep going?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, you'll just hear me double, that's all.
I have a quick question.
So the
On the phone.
benefits of the program, so you heard her talking about the 3%. I know you heard a couple of people say the 3%. Well, the HubZone program fuels small businesses growth in underutilized areas. And so there's a 3% set aside for the contract. So what that means is that the government sets aside 3% of their contracts just for HubZone certified companies. And we are not meeting that goal at all in Indiana. So, but that's why I say it's a very underutilized program, because you automatically have 3% of those contracts set aside. There's also a 10% valuation, which means you can be at 10% higher than a non-certified HubZone business or a larger business. So you can go against a large company, bid 10% more, but because you're certified with the HubZone, you can still win the contract and make more, even though they underbid or were under you. So that's another thing, you can make a little bit more money because you have the certification. And then also with competition, you can still qualify for other social disadvantaged programs and still be qualified for HubZone. So it's not like you can only be qualified for this one and not go for other ones. So talk about the application process a little bit. So before you apply, you should know your NAICS code. You've heard that come up a lot. So your NAICS code is the code that identifies your business and what your business does. So again, that can be found either at NAICS.com or it can actually be found through the link on the HubZone website. You also need to register in SAM.gov. That is the system that SBA uses to determine you as a small business. So you need to be registered in SAM.gov. And then you need to also create what's called a general login system account, which we know as GLS. Now I'm gonna tell you now, it's old. That's why she laughed before I even said it. I'm gonna tell you now, when you look at it, it's old. It's an old system. It might kick you out. You might have to come back in. You might fight with it a little bit. Be patient with her. She's old. Be patient with her. But she will get you there. So just know that you have to go and make that account in there. And then you want to start your application process. So you apply through GLS. So these long 10 pages come up through the GLS website that you're going to have to do. So you go in there and you have to do your application. And then you need to go back to your SAM.gov account after you have been approved and go into those check boxes that she was talking about and click that you are now HubZone certified. Because if you do not, when someone goes and they're looking for you, they're going to say, oh, you bid for this, but you're not qualified because you didn't put that little check mark in your SAM.gov profile. Then we want to talk about our documents a little bit. So there is a checklist. I have some printouts here in the back. They're quite lengthy, but each well, let me just ask, what do we have? Do we have sole Ps? Do we have LLCs? Do we have corporations? LLCs, mostly LLCs? Corporation. Okay, so for you, your documentation list is a little bit longer. But you need to gather your supporting document and then you need to submit your documentation. So because you're here and our group is a little smaller, I'll tell you. So for you, you'll need articles of incorporation, your certificate of incorporation. I'm sorry, I told you my glasses. And what I do like this, certificate of incorporation with the Secretary of State seal, and then any amendments that you would have. And then you need your ledger, your stock ledgers, or your, registry, or your corporate resolutions, clearly showing all of your owners and ownership. And I will tell you, if you're doing for your 51% for your ownership, each person that has part of that ownership that is meeting that 51% must show their citizenship as well.
I'm 100%.
Okay, well then that's all you.
And I'm going through a lot of that with the one on business.
Okay,
Because I inherited.
okay, okay. And then, you would need to do any DBAs if you had any DBAs. And then for the LLCs, you'll do your articles of organization and, any amendments, and then your certificates of organizations with the Secretary of State seal. Now, I will tell you this, you can print your, documents offline, but they won't have that seal on it. And for the HubZone office, they look for that stamp to be on it. It can either be the impress like embossed one or the stamp, but it needs to have the, Secretary of State seal on it in order for them to, take it. Otherwise, they will return your paperwork to you.
So you physically have to have that? Or just because we're registered with the state of Indiana and the letters of incorporation are listed.
So yes, you do have to resubmit them though physically to, so when you submit your documentation to, so you'll do your application online and then you have, I want to say it's 2 days after you receive your verification letter to submit your documentation via the email instructions. So you don't submit them at the time of the application. So once your application is submitted, you'll get an email, you verify that email, and then you'll get instructions in that email on where to send your documents to, and you have to upload all of your documents to whatever link it is they give you in that email. Now, we'll tell you, your documents have to be complete, they have to be dated, and they have to have everything that they've asked you for, otherwise they will return it. They will not start to review your application until all of your documents are in and complete. And if they're not complete, they will decline it or withdraw it, and you cannot reapply for 90 days from that withdrawal date. Okay. All right. Any more questions?
It's a little tricky.
Yeah, that's why she asked me to come, because I know the application process a little bit better. So, so the HubZone office has tried to make some improvements. How long have you been HubZone?
For a year.
A year. So you've done it under the new process. So if anyone has tried under the old process, there was a lot of complaints about the application process and a lot of complaints about the customer service, and rightfully so, because it is a long process and they weren't getting any help. So, and then they were decertifying companies quickly. So they've tried to make some changes so that you would have better benefits. So they added a new legacy. So sorry, I wear bifocals, y'all. I know y'all looking at me like, so that's why I keep my pants so y'all hear me. So businesses may now count long-term HubZone residents employees as permanent HubZone residents with proper documentation. Then they also are expanding to rural areas, which was not covered before at all. So now if you're in a rural area, their new governor mandates that are saying rural areas that are underemployed can now qualify for HubZone certifications. And then also, if you purchase a building or you enter into a long-term agreement or lease that's more than 10 years, you can be considered in a permanent HubZone as long as you stay in that property. So you don't have to continue to say that. So every year you have to certify, you have to go into your JLS account. You have to say that I'm still in this principal office. I still have these 35% people, and you have to recertify every year on your own. So if you don't do those things, you can be decertified or withdrawn. This is now changing that a little bit. So if you say you have a 10-year lease, you don't have to continue to update your principal office location. So it's kind of grandfathering you in a little bit. Got a question?
Can churches or faith organizations certify? Also have HubZone?
I believe so. I believe so. I haven't had that I can think of had one, but I don't see why you couldn't, as long as you had a service that you could provide under the contracts of the community. So, yes.
I have two questions. One, if you are, for instance, normally a work in South Bend Project Impact allows us to utilize their address and office space and things of that nature. They're a HubZone. If we use that to get our HubZone certification, because this will be a primary office space?
Yes, as long as that's your primary office space. So the HubZone office considers your primary office space as the location to where the majority of your employees report to. So even if they work at job sites, they just need to report to that location.
Okay, and the other question is, when they're reporting to that location, we don't have to change any addresses on like our corporation or anything.
No, they go by, so they will ask you for things like leases, deeds, rental agreements, those things to verify your principal office location. So, and then you can even use utility bills and those type of things to show that you are at their office location. And I will say that, all of your information, they use what's called an EVD date. That is the date that your application was submitted and accepted by them. That is the date that they use to, verify everything. So they're gonna look at, for instance, for payroll, they're gonna look for, 4 weeks before that date, because they have to be with, people have to be paid within the 4 weeks of that date. Everything else is within 30 days, I believe, of that date. So you can't move into a building, like 2 months before and then say, this is what I'm using. So they're looking for the most up-to-date information.
The question is, if they're using this address, they would have to have some sort of mailbox or some sort of, because this is actually an established building. I mean,
So you're saying your principal office is in South Bend?
no, it's here. And you're using this address, right?
Right, it was-
Are you using this address?
Right, and my other question with that is, so like our payroll, in order for your payroll, you have to have that address registered with the IRS. So we have our PO box as a registered address for our payroll.
They won't use PO box.
So we had another address other than this address and not a PO box when our payroll checks were registered.
You don't have a location, so you don't have a physical building or location?
So they're using this space as like incubation space, is that?
Yes.
Okay.
So the way that you can do that is if they have, is we ran into this in Lafayette at Matchbox. And so Matchbox has each one of the desks per se, they have a desk in a locked in area. Each one of those has like a suite number assigned to it.
Because we've been in business for 4 years, but we're a home-based company, which is good because during the pandemic, had an office space we killed. So, like we were on a project for 2 years and we had a trailer, and all of our employees reported to that trailer, but their payroll check had another address on that because we don't want our home address on their payroll checks. But we're a home-based business, so.
Is your home in a hub zone?
Well, I'm not sure, it might be. Well, one of our locations is in a hub zone. Our location in Illinois is in a hub zone. Our location in Indianapolis, I'm not sure, it's in Lawrence Township. I know you're from Indy.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure.
Some of Lawrence is hub zone, but not a lot of it. I live in Fisher, so I'm right up the street from there.
So we're in Lawrence, we're over by Lawrence North.
You said nothing Fisher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're by Lawrence North High School, so I don't think that
It's questionable. I mean,
Some of
there's
that over
pockets.
there is, yeah.
Yeah.
So we can pull it up in the computer out on the map afterwards. We'll be here for a little while. We can look and see on the map if it's in the hub zone or not.
And the reason I ask, because I know a lot of small businesses that are just starting out or that are XBE are in a similar situation where it's a home office until you can afford to get a building.
You can't have that. You cannot have that many multiple addresses in.
Right.
Yeah, that's just
right. Yeah,
You
you have to.
can't, you're gonna have to decide where your primary is going to be.
Right.
Well, that's why I'm asking the question.
And so you have to decide where that primary, it must be a street address. If you have an incubator or an innovation park, as long as you have a suite number, then you can use that, but it has to be differentiated between the businesses. So in other words, like Matchbox in Lafayette, they have 15 offices, or 15 different desks. And each one of the desks has a suite number assigned to it.
Like that could be yeah, and then you could say that suite 8 at this address was your PO office.
But you cannot use a post office box.
Yeah.
You cannot use multiple addresses because it will confuse the system.
And then kick it out.
And let me tell you, when it comes to these addresses, even when you go to enter in SAM.gov, you must realize that this is a computer taking down your information. It is not a person. You want to make sure that the address that is assigned to you is utilize the United States Postal Service. I always tell people, look at your Amazon packages when they're delivered. If it has a space, if it has a comma, if your street, they take and abbreviate capital S, capital T, period. When you take and enter it in SAM, it better say capital S, capital T, period. If it is a capital S, lowercase t, no period. It is literally that, and they will kick it out. Yes.
So we're entered in SAM, and when I was doing a Google search one day, I saw my home address all over the place, and one of those places was because it was SAM, it was public facing. So when I re-registered with SAM, I put my PO box in. So, and that's why I asked the question, because number one, I know I personally don't like my personal address all over the place, but that's our business address, so we use the PO box as, the other main address.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so that's why I asked the question, and then to determine which location we would want to use as a hub zone, because if we could use.
We'll just have to put
Yeah,
them
we'll have to
in
put them in
and to see where your
see.
primary location is,
Yeah.
because you said you're using multiple locations.
Yeah, so.
But I would say that the other day, when someone had problems with Sam, as Dinah said, they had actually entered everything in all caps. And we couldn't find it because they were, uppercase, and then everything, the rest of their name was lowercase. So it's, just kind of remembering how you're entering things, because just like your passwords and anything else, a lot of this stuff is case sensitive. So it wants to be entered the same way that you entered when you originally.
And the other factor is that when you register with the Secretary of State for your articles of organization, how you got to think of this as a trifecta. In other words, they're going to verify with state of Indiana, they're going to verify with SAM, and they're going to verify with the Internal Revenue Service.
Yeah.
Those are the three that all have to match exactly. And I'm talking, when I say exactly, I'm talking if the Secretary of State puts a comma, or they put periods after each one of the L period C, then that's what you must put on, because they'll let you enter it. I'm going to be honest, they'll let you enter it, but when you go to renew it in a year and it doesn't match, they're just going to tell you it doesn't match. And it's up to you to find it. And sometimes it's a needle in a haystack.
Well, I will say for the organization and agreement, so I'll process the applications. They will, so you can move like you did, and it's been 20 years, and so you've moved maybe since then. They will take the same one as long as it's still accurate, as long as all the other information is lines up. So if your articles of incorporation are different address, say, you've moved since then and you changed this office since then, as long as your business name is still the same, your business name can't change. If your business name has changed, then you need a DBA, and then they will ask you for an updated article of incorporation or agreements or any other thing like that. But as long as your business name has remained the same and you can back up your new principal office location and everything else matches behind that, they will still take that agreement. Now, like I said, if the name changes, even if you added ink to it, even if you took the comma out, anything that changes in the name, they will require you to do a new one, and then they will require the new address on the new.
We just had several of them come back for address verifications. We had to send in all kinds of.
Yeah, they do ask for a lot of documentation for the address verifications. They usually want a driver's license. When you don't have your driver's license and that information doesn't match, then they ask you for a lot of information. I actually have a list back there of all the stuff they ask you for, and this is one thing they do ask you for a lot of information. But they're just trying to verify. We have people that will say they're in this office, and then they're not in their office, and then 3 years later you go and find out it's just somebody put something on the door with a box over there. Like I had a company that I tried to verify for 3 years was in this location. For 3 years, I never could meet the guy that said that he had the office or a hub zone. So, and that's why they're really trying to make sure that people aren't just, plugging the certification basically.
How does a driver's license tie out to the corporation?
So they're looking at your citizenship, they're looking at your 35%, they're looking at your principal office location, like you said, they're looking at your payroll, they're tying all of that stuff back together, and they want whatever information that you're putting on there. So for your 51%, they're asking for your driver's license, so that information needs to match up. Now, some people submit passports, so do they have addresses? They don't have addresses, so. Yeah, so and it just depends, and I will tell you, so this is probably not the best thing to say, but there's a lot of people in the office that are doing your application. It's almost like when you call the 800 number and you talk to somebody and one person tells you this, then you call back and another person tells you this. It really depends on who is doing your application and what information they can take at a minimum. Some people will take the minimum if they feel like they can verify it. Some people will not because they feel like they need more information. You know, maybe they just didn't feel like it added up and they just needed more information. So some people will say, I'll take your passport, even though this address doesn't match and I can look over here and see if these things still add up, and they can put the train together and they can say, okay, this all goes together. Some people may look at that and say, you know what, I can't piece this together. I need you to give me a little bit more information. So it really just depends on who the person that is working your application is. You know, now I will say they will make sure that they are meeting the criteria. They just may ask you for different things at different times. So I know I did some that, like, it'll be one person, I'm like, okay, I can put this together, this seems easy. Then all of a sudden, it's got 100 people on it, it's like, okay, I need you to hit every dot with this, I need every check mark with this, because this isn't matching this, and this isn't matching that. So it really just depends on how they're putting that application together. So, and then the systems, like you said, it's a computer, so it's error. It's like you said, you might have put a dot here, and then put the dot here, and it kicked everything back, and you can't figure out why. So there's a lot of things that go along with this process. So it is about a 90-day process just to get it approved, because there's a lot of things in the background that are going on. So kind of lost track of where we were. Oh. Okay. Oh, what I did want to say, the hub zone maps too. The hub zone maps, now they're changing every 5 years. They were every 10 years, I think. So now they're changing every 5, and the next change is July 1st. So they will be changing this year. So, and I think that's, really quick, she talked about SAM.gov, and you've heard that a lot. So now you can bid on your hub zone contracts in SAM.gov. So, there's a little, thing at the top over here. You see say contract, you click on that, you get a little bottom window, and then you put your next code in there and it'll bring up available contracts. You can scroll to the bottom of those contracts after you read through them and see if you qualify to bid on it. And that's where you will find your bidding information down at the bottom. You'll find, contact names and phone numbers down there at the bottom. And I think the dates are there too as well, right? On those contracts. And I think that is all I have. So I do have this, if you are looking for help, so this is the number to call in every Tuesday and Thursday between 2 and 3. For the people in the back, the number is 208-391-5817. You put in conference ID number #278-449-067. That is a weekly call. This is with the DC office. These are the people that work in the Hub Zone office in DC. They are there to take your calls and help you through your eligibility process on the phone. If you do not want to get on that call or you have missed that call, you can do the Hub Zone at SBA.gov. That is a help desk, email help desk. They respond to those within 24 hours. There's somebody that is manning that email daily. And then all of these links and all this information that we found can also be found at the Hub Zone website, so it's sba.gov/Hub Zone. And the links are there as well. The links are there to tell you what you need, how to qualify, how to recertify, and all that information can be found directly on the website. Do you have any more questions? Nope. Okay, I'll turn it back over here.
As I said earlier, thank you. This is gonna be just my PowerPoint, but the thing is, it's all good information. And we will send the slides out to you. I'm gonna briefly go over the 3 other federal certifications so that you are aware of them. As I said, if you have any questions about the eligibility, and we're here to help you and guide you to whoever can actually help facilitate. So the next one I'm going to talk about is our Women on Small Business, which is our we call it our WSB, or sometimes you might hear of it as WASB, and then our Economically Disadvantaged Women on Small Business, or our EDWASB. So going through this program, it's about taking advantage of our annual prime contracting goals, which is our 5% goal. through the federal agencies to help small businesses to build capacity and to help them grow, their small business. And then, of course, with that 5%, that's our set aside for our NYSB and our, women-owned small business. And I think we talk about, the actual NAICS codes shortly. But once again, as all of our certifications, you have to have 51% ownership. This has to be the highest officer in the business because, of course, as we're trying to, we're still the government, there's still going to be waste, fraud, and abuse. But the Women-Owned Small Business Program was one that we were finding that, of course, the woman owned a trucking company. She didn't even have a driver's license. But the husband was the one that was doing all of the work and all the business. And so at this point in time now, to be a woman-owned small business, you have to have the highest ranking position actually in the business, and you have to have the 50% ownership. Have the proper NAICS codes. And we keep talking about the NAICS codes. I want to say that when you're looking up your NAICS codes, because I've seen people that have one code and they do have the capacity or the capability to do multiple things, is your industry code. So what industry are you in and what are you trying to do? And then I've seen people that they've got 100 on there. And I'm like, okay, you can't build a house, plant the flowers, make the cables. So it's about what can you do? What do you have the capacity to do? What do you have the capability to do? So, put in your main NAICS codes and then the things that you can do, because one of the biggest ones is when we're looking at contracting or general contracting, of course, you may be able to do roofing and then have the capability to do electrical work. So yes, figure out which one is your prime and then you can put the other ones under it. Or we've had people that, they do the electrical, they do the roofing, they do the drywall. But then they want to put every other code with it. So just make sure that you're using the proper NAICS codes for the women-owned small business and the SBA. Of course, we want you to make sure that you have managerial experience in the business that you're running. And as I said, part of the highest position is that you manage the day-to-day operations.
I've got a question because I kept getting rejected on the managerial experience. What exactly is they asking for as far as management?
What business are you in?
It's an umbrella corporation. So I do drug testing. Well, I have contracts that I have with third-party companies that's doing drug testing, perform facts, psych medics, lab corps, several agencies that's like standing there waiting. But when you say managerial, I don't know.
Well, I mean, they want to make, so you're saying you're in drug testing. First of all, did you submit a resume? Because that's one of the things that's part of it when you're trying to get this application is a resume is part of the application process.
Okay.
Because they want to make sure that if you're drug testing, do you have the qualifications? Have you, I'm not sure, is there a certification, another sort of medical certification that goes with that? Yeah. Do you actually know what basically, it's
so
show us what you're doing.
Okay.
Do you hire? Do you fire? Do you set the agenda?
The pay and all, yeah.
Are you the one that has the emergency action plans? Do you have, are you making the major decisions and managerial for your company?
Okay.
It's all under your direction.
Right.
And if you haven't put that in a resume.
Yeah. So they want to see it. I mean, although it's a business, they want to see your resume to make sure that you can operate this business. Because if you're trying to get a contract or they award you a contract, they want to make sure that you know what you're doing, you know how to price, you know how to run the business, you can meet deadlines, and you can make sure that what the award says is what you can deliver.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And then, of course, with the women-owned small business, there's no minimum time in business. That was one of the reasons why I said who is actually in business now. Because don't encourage to say, oh, I'm going to start my business today and I'm actually going to apply for this certification. But there are a lot of people that have been, I work with a lot of people that have been working with people that have been doing government contracting, and a lot of them have been the person that was actually doing that side of servicing the award. So they've actually now started their own business. So they do have the expertise. So, but this is one of the ones that you do not have to actually have already been in business for a year or two before you actually submit for this qualification. Now, some of the requirements, because once again, we're looking at this as an economically
disadvantaged, business. So it's not for, the woman that's, got a trust fund and, or has a husband that's, a peer, but it's about, having a personal net worth, minus your assets and your liabilities is less than 750,000. Your 3-year average income is 350,000 or less. So of course, I did say, if you just started your business, you may not have that, but I'm just saying that's what we're looking at for a threshold of your income is 350,000 or less. And then of course, your fair market value of all your assets is $6 million or less. As I said, when we're looking at the women-owned and the economically disadvantaged, we're looking at these NAICS codes that are primarily in male-dominated industries so that we can give women a fair shot at winning an award. So when you're looking at the woman-owned small business, there's 646 NAICS codes, and then the economically disadvantaged, there's an additional 113 for a total of 759 codes that fall under this category. But we're talking about trucking, construction, accounting, because those are usually jobs that are held by men. But I mean, you can go through the code and we can figure out if you actually qualify under those codes. I see a hand.
Yes, as you bring this up, this past weekend, I was in a meeting with a group of minority truckers, in their organization in Indianapolis, and the topic of discussion was actually how a lot of non-minority male truckers have set their wives as owners of their business, but their wives have nothing to do with the business. How does the weeding out process take place so that it can be determined that the people owning these businesses are actually operating?
Well, I mean, I'm basically talking about federal certifications. Diana's talking about certifications with the state of Indiana. So
Well,
are they getting government contracts
They're
under?
setting them up as WBE. They're setting them up as WBE, and they're getting state contracts. They're getting highway construction contracts, and they're getting preference over the.
Well, they shouldn't be.
So that's what I'm asking.
Well, I mean, I don't know how they're getting through because I actually work with the state and I work with the procurement. So I mean, because they do a great check. Because
I would challenge that really, because I know the folks that are doing those on-site visits.
I see the trucks on the road. There's no challenge.
Well, what I'm saying is though, when you're saying they're giving them to women-owned business, declaring women-owned small businesses, there's a difference between saying I am a woman-owned small business because I'm female and being certified with the state. So what I'm going to challenge you is that when you see that, I would go to the state because they have that DBE, they have those WBEs listed, and actually go and look and see if they have that certification or not.
They actually do, because with these contracts, they're the ones who are fulfilling the minority requirement that's mandated by the state federal government.
As women?
Yes.
As women or as minority?
As women-owned businesses, and that's the same thing.
No,
it's not. No, it's not.
Okay, no, but they're doing it as WBE, and because of the new WBE, XBE requirements, they can fulfill multiple XBE requirements with just one.
I can almost guarantee you that they're filing it underneath the minority.
So my wife said
they're doing it under minority, and what's happening, that we learned at the purpose this meeting is that so they're getting the minority preference, and some of their companies who know these smaller companies are like kind of giving them those contracts.
So they're subbing. They're
subbing. And the women, some of them actually got their CDL to get the company, and then they step back. And then their husband's running the company and getting the contracts.
But the company, is the husband running or is he driving?
Both.
But then, can I say something about that? Because the DOT, one of the things that require, one of the requirements of the DOT is to have a TPA. I don't know if they do a TPA, if they run that TPA, but there have to be an owner that is certified as a CDL driver. So that may be one of the reasons why they stepping back. But as a DOT, as a truck driving institute, and as a TPA, you have to, they have to have one owner that's a certified driver. So maybe that's why they stepping back.
I
but-
would just really challenge, if you know it, then report it.
Or if you know it, give me the names and I'll make a call.
Okay,
I
well,
mean, I'm serious.
I
what
can
I,
get information
what
too.
we'll do
Yes,
is put you in
contact
touch
information.
with the people who are over the meeting that we went to, because it's kind of going up the food chain, political chain and all, and they're trying to figure out how to crack down because a lot of the minority companies aren't getting the contract.
Okay, I mean, and that's fine, because we know the change, so, I mean, if you've got information, I'd be glad to share it with.
The proper individuals.
Right.
Well, that's what I was asking, how do they crack down on that? Because even though that's happening, well, the meeting that we were attending was based on the trucking industry. We're in the construction industry, and it happens to us on a regular basis.
I will tell you, I've sat in on those on-site, because anybody that is with NDOT that is going after the DBE or IDOA with the WBE, they're doing on-sites. And so I've been in on those meetings. I'll tell you, the most embarrassing thing that I ever had, I worked with a group, 3 men, one was a vet, the other 2. So with this, they're coming on, and it's an excavating company. My vet is sitting there, and he's supposedly the 54% owner with these 2 guys. And so on that, we're sitting there, and they ask, how many excavators do you own? Now, the person that is in charge has to answer all these questions. And he says, what is an excavator? Now, as you can tell, I'm a very expressive person. And my face just went, this meeting is done. I mean, we're done. I mean, there's no sense in wasting our time. This is a cover for any study. They ended the meeting right away. I mean, it was done.
Has there been any attention paid to the fact that the WBE is the highest goal that's fulfilled throughout the state? Like, that's the easiest and the highest goal that's always fulfilled, besides the minority or the veterans.
Absolutely. And we know that. And we know that. But I will say that in defense of IDOA and that I've been across from them, and I'm not saying there's not those that go through, but I've had a number of my legitimate turned down because I didn't think that they were managing the operation enough.
Right, and I can say IDOA does not even want to work with the feds on their veterans program because we do not do site visits under our veterans certification. So they're like, we don't want, so they're looking at rewriting some of their mandates on even dealing with our veterans because we don't do a site visit. And I mean, that's just the way that the legislation is written. So they're like, they're cringing. So, but like I say, if you have information, you've got a name, I'll give you my word that I will send it up. I'll talk to them and say, hey, this is what we've been told. And I'm sure they'll look into it.
And I've had 2 people that have had their certifications revoked. Okay, so it's kind of like one of those things, even with cybersecurity, that they're now saying, if you see something, you know something, say something. Mm-hmm. Because there are very few of us.
I'll just make one comment too. So when you say XBE, I think you have to be careful, because if the contract says XBE, that could be any certification, right?
He covers the gap.
So when you're saying they're getting minority, but they're only a W, it could be the requirement is just an X, in which anybody can fulfill that. Okay.
They have specific.
Right.
We're gonna give her the information, so you can.
Yeah, just give me the information. So, and then with the WOSB, y'all would just say that the rule of 2 applies. So all they need is for the particular bid for the set aside, It's two companies. So they must have, in order to award it, they must have the rule too, so just to let you know that. It is you can actually go through the certified.sba.gov, and there is an online certification. But I will say on this one, there are 4 organizations, that we look at as far as helping you to go through the certification process for the women-owned small business, that they actually is a charge for these particular organizations. And I think, Diana, you do you help with, so Diana does help with the women-owned small business. It sounds crazy, but a lot of the certifications, we can't even see the application and they're feds. So that's why we're lucky that Tawana has been through the Hub Zone process. Diana's been through the women-owned small business. So we can at least sort of help you go through and help you answer the questions.
Now, I will admit, after 4 years of working with women-owned small businesses, and when they went to this new application that was online, after 2 years, I found out there is a user guide. And it'll walk you through every single section of that women-owned small business.
Oh, I didn't know that. Can you bring it for me?
It's out there. It's called user guide. But anyway,
that was good to have.
WOSB user guide.
Okay, well, I'm about to Google that one.
Which one did you say was a charge?
The woman-owned, you can I was saying that when people were saying that they were paying the woman-owned small business, there are 4 organizations that the feds have granted to process these applications. Those 4 are listed on the slides, but then it is a self-certification. It's just a lot of times people don't want to go through the trouble of doing it themselves. But I would encourage everyone to at least try to do the certification themselves, especially when it's free.
So
You just need to
get help, that's when you get charged. Is that what you're saying?
well, if you have someone else,
Oh,
someone else do it for you, yes.
okay.
But you're still gonna supply them.
All you're doing is giving them the information, you're giving
And
them,
they're gonna do your data entry.
right. So my thing is find out what you need, and that's like Tawana said, find out what documents you need as you start to enter the process. If you got everything there, then it should be pretty easy. Okay.
Is any of y'all multiple, any of y'all have multiple certifications? Like,
We do. We
okay.
have WBE, MBE, DBE, DBE, DOBE, AC.
Oh, they're doing all the
Okay.
states, they're doing all the states, you're doing,
State and city.
yeah, you're doing city and state stuff, yeah, you're just not doing the feds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I've got 2 questions on the state one. The statement is, when we actually utilize, Nathan Williams, or Nate Lofton.
Nate Lofton,
And the advice that he gave us was fill out all of your certification paperwork together because of the reciprocity, turn it in all at the same time within the same day or week. And we did that. And because of the reciprocity, all of the agencies won't do the site visit. They'll rely on the other agency that actually did the site visit. So we had, the state didn't do a site visit, but the city did, and NDOT did site visit. And the process went quicker because most of the information's similar. Now for my question is, I did a self-certification a while back, but I don't know, it was through SBA, but I don't know if it was the WSOP or not. So how do you know? Because I might have accidentally did it and not know, or not even possible. How do you look it up to see?
Just, I gotta get a lot of information from you guys, so I'll get that information and we can actually we can check the application process and see if it's been processed, where you are, if it's stuck somewhere, and because when did it change, last year?
The WSB?
Yeah,
It changed
Right.
20.
I was gonna say it changed during the pandemic. I can't, I processed some.
October of 20 is when it changed.
Yeah.
We would have did it in 2019 if we did it.
Okay, we can just check. I can just check your information and see what happened. That's the stuff on there.
The last time I did this, it took the government 120 days pending, and I can't handle the cash crunch. So is government paying faster?
Actually, with the government, we pay within 30 days. So obviously, when you submitted your invoice, was
Well, this was a long time ago, and I thought, should I even bother with this? 'Cause
Well, actually,
I wouldn't carry the government for 120 days.
Right, but we've changed the process. That was one of the biggest problems that we've had. But primarily, basically, all the agencies that we deal with are 30 days, so long as your invoice that you have submitted is correct. Now, you will get hung up if it doesn't match. But what agency are you dealing with? I mean, we were paying on credit cards, we were paying, I mean,
Back then, I was doing federal contracts for the government through computers.
okay, but yes, but I mean, that was actually in one of those federal acts that, 30 days, so long as 30 days from the time that the invoice was received accurately. Because that was the complaints of course, the small business cannot afford to carry the government.
And now they've gone to wide area workflow.
Okay. Then we've got our 8A business development is our next certification. As I said, that's our 9-year program that's available once in a lifetime. So that's one of those that when we're talking to small businesses, we're really wanting to make sure that you are ready because, honestly, in my opinion, even the ones that get in are not really ready. Once they get to like year 4, they're like, darn, I should have waited. But it's a one-time thing. So once you're in it, you're in it. So you can't say, I've been in the AA program and it was successful. Now, 10 years later, I want to register again. Actually, Pastor Hardy, he was one of our 8A graduates. We still pulling to this day to talk about the program and the successes of the program, but it's actually to help you build capacity and to grow through contracts. I think Diana mentioned about not putting all your eggs in one basket. So it's about how do you obtain federal contracts at the same time maintaining your B2B relationship or your B2C relationship, because we want to make sure that you can handle them, and you can maintain them both. And then of course, it's access to business development. So we, once you're in the 8A program, we try to help you and encourage you. We do search letters for you we encourage you on your business development growth with your capability statement. We provide a lot of training on making sure that your finances are in order, because the biggest thing that we're going to want to see in order to gain larger contracts, we're going to make sure that your books are right. I tell small businesses all the time, doesn't matter to me what side you want to be on, but in order to be in this particular program, you're going to have to make sure that all of your financials are just clean. So if you want to stay under the radar and you want to do things a little sketchy, then the 8A program is not for you, and I'm just being honest about it. Once again, it's, as I said, it's a commercial and governmental mix. We provide you a lot of marketing ability, but your marketing ability is how you get your contracts. So I'm going to say, you go through the process, you become 8A certified, you sit at your desk and wait for the contracts to fall out of the ceiling. That's not going to happen. You're going to have to go to meetings. You're going to have to go to procurement fairs. You're going to have to get in SAM.gov, find out who these agencies are, when they're buying, what they're buying, and what they're buying potentially from you, making sure you've got a capability statement and all the standards we're going to go through a little later, but you're going to have to market for yourself. You're going to, there are things we can do, like I say, through the search, but you're going to have to go out there and hit the pavement and find those opportunities. Once again, making sure you're using the proper next codes, your net worth and requirements. We want to make sure that your diminished ability to compete is there, and it is our socially and economically disadvantaged program. When we say what is disadvantaged, we have 2 designated groups. Of course, the first one is basically based on ethnicity, which is African American, Asian Pacific, Hispanic, Native American, basically anything other than non-white. So then we're looking at our designated group criteria, because people are saying, well, how do you have white men or white women in the 8A program? We're looking at those. We want to make sure that if you're trying to apply, that you can show us that with the preponderance of evidence that you have been discriminated against, or looking at, what has happened to you that has caused you to have some sort of negative impact in your business for your advancement. And I will tell you, there are a lot of things that are out there that you're like, okay, fine, if that's what you say. But it's not me that approves the applications. Once again, as Juana said, it is Washington, DC. But before you go through the application process, we want to make sure that you have identified the correct NAICS codes. You've registered in sam.gov. You've received your UEI number, which, as Diana said, which is your unique entity identifier, which has replaced your DUNS number. So you will get your UEI number when you register in sam.gov. So make sure when you register in sam.gov, that's one of the things, just like your EIN number, you make sure you print off that piece of paper and you keep that number or take a screenshot of it, because you're going to need that UEI number. When you're applying for the certification, we're going to review the application guide. Actually, when you go on to SBA.gov, you can do /8A and you can go through the whole application guide, and it'll give you everything that you need before you actually start that process. And as I said, gather your supporting documentation. But that guide, I mean, it walks you through everything. This, and this. And we can actually help you in our office to make sure that you have everything that you need. And then, of course, we have the resources that can help you. And then for any assistance, we're just using certified.sba.gov. Like I said, with the women on small business, the 8A is a little different. You have to be in business for at least 2 years. But as I said, we do have a waiver. So if you were that person that was generating, millions of dollars for the company you work for, you now started your own company, or you can show that you have the business expertise, the technical, you're able to do it, you have the adequate capital, and going back to performing or successful past performance, you can use who you formerly worked for, and that you meet the ability to perform. Actually, we did receive, one person came into the 8A program. She had already worked and networked, and she came into the 8A program with a waiver because she was already had the agency was ready to do work with her. So that was one of the reasons why she was able to get a waiver, because she had already marketed herself and she had actually worked with the actual agency itself. As I said, going into certified.gov, into the portal, making sure this is a migration, so it actually pulls everything, all the information from sam.gov, which is inside of certified. I'm just trying to get through this because we've already kept you longer than we had asked you to sit here. But then under the veteran-owned small business program, we have our veteran-owned, as I said, just came up underneath the SBA in January. And then we have our service-disabled veteran-owned small business program. Once again, that does have a 3% goal set aside. So if you are a veteran, it helps you to build capacity and grow, just like all of our other programs do. With the veteran-owned small business, you can establish a joint venture, which basically means you can actually do business with another business, and you guys can form. You guys can make another business so that you can actually bid on projects together. Just like everything else, 51% ownership. You have to have the highest officer position, proper NAICS codes. Once again, it goes back to being the highest position and actually having the managerial experience and involved in the daily operations. So some of the key changes was actually, if you were already in, and do we have any veteran-owned certifications? Okay, you got a VA cert. Okay, so have you recertified yet? Or did you recertify?
I recertified with the city and the state, and I believe that's where I have a self-certifying question in the SBA.
Okay, so we'll figure, because you had to already put the ask in, which gave you 4 years instead of the 3, which was the final rule, and we're looking at the NAICS codes. But the self-certifying does not go. We're not accepting the self-certified under that first year. So we'll talk about that.
I don't understand that part. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, so I'll talk to you about that part. But then for those of you, we're registering under vets.certified.sba.gov, which is where you go to apply for the new veteran certification. And then, of course, the SBA, as Juana alluded to, we have a new portal that's coming out, My SBA, which the veteran cert will be the first thing that actually goes into it. It's actually testing, but the reason for my SBA is so that, as we talked about, you're entering a bunch of data. The goal of my SBA is to, once you get your one certification in, when you're applying now for your next certification, whether it's a loan, whether it's any other thing that you do through the federal government, through the SBA, it's gonna help you pull the data together. So whatever it is that you're doing, you may not have to submit as much data. So that's one of the reasons why we're trying to get my SBA together, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed because I want it to work.
Is there a website for my SBA?
It's not, right now, it's still in the test phase. And they've dumped some of the veteran, certifications into it, but it's not up yet. But, as soon as it is, we're gonna be screaming to the moon, so you'll hear me all the way from Indy. So we talked about working with the state, we talked about working with the feds and the certifications. And as I said, once you get certified, the work doesn't stop. That's when the work starts. That's when you have to go out and you have to market yourself. So the goal is for you to get certified, understand what the certification that you've received, what it can help you do, and then we have to help you with the work. So with the work is making sure you're ready. We're beating it across your head. Your NAICS codes, making sure that you have your NAICS code, you have the right tools, you have the right expectations. Don't get in this saying my first contract's gonna be for $1 million because you're just gonna be upset. And then of course, wanting to make sure that you conduct some security checks to make sure. So making sure, as I said, you have the proper NAICS codes and making sure you have the capacity and the capability to use the NAICS codes that you're actually using. Use it, evaluate your unique selling proposition. You know, what makes you different? What makes you stand out from your other competitors? Using federal procurement data system, it actually will, those are for those contracts that are over 25,000. As I said, some people just want to do contracting to help them sustain their business or to grow their business. So everyone doesn't get into this saying, I want $1 million deal. But we have websites and we have organizations and groups that give you the information that you need. USAspending.gov, it tracks your government spending by agency. It identifies the needs. So you can go in there, you can say, how much is so-and-so spending under this particular code, or how much did they spend last year? Where are they looking at to spend this year? Which gives you a way to utilize the market. As Tawana alluded to earlier, sam.gov, you can go in there and find the contracting opportunities. So the information is out there. What I encourage people to do is just like how you took the 2 hours to come here to find out about how do I get certified? What's in it for me? I always say, set time because it's not like I can go talk to an individual and I can close the deal with them and I can start doing work. It's going to take time to build the agency or build a rapport with the procurement officer or to fill out the applications or to look for deals. Put that on your calendar to say, I'm going to set aside 2 hours each week, just like any other meeting. If something comes up, move it to the next week. Because if you say, I'm going to do it, I come back a year from now, you're not going to do it if you don't set the time aside to do it. So that's my recommendation, is that you put it on your calendar. You say, I'm going to start this process, and then I'm going to continue to work on it each week, each month, so that you can make sure that you do it. And as I said, managing your expectations, because it's a lot of work. So once again, managing your time is probably the best advice that I can give you when it's talking about expectation and using and understanding the regulations. Reading, I think that's on one of your slides, but reading the award, understanding what it is. If you don't know, don't be embarrassed. Just call someone and say, what does this mean? And we can help you interpret it, because we want to make sure that if you're bidding on something and you win the award, that you can actually don't get yourself in a bind and that you actually lose everything trying to sustain an award that you just can't. And then of course, we recommend, because this has been a trying year with the year of the scammers. We said earlier, I think we were talking about if they use what they know for good, this world would probably be a better place. But, you know, we encourage you to utilize a security check. The National Institute of Safety Standards, there's the website is here. They can actually help you do a performance risk assessment to make sure that your security is as tight as it can be, because we found that once you get more than 100 employees, your security risks go way up because they start clicking on stuff. They start answering emails that look like it's a real legitimate email that it's not, and it's not. One of the things that we're trying to that we're facing now is someone has gotten hold of our PowerPoint decks. They had there's a PowerPoint going around that's saying grants. Have you seen it? Grants something. And I mean, we've had a lot of calls, and we've had our partners call us and say, is this really for real? Because it looks, you know, but then I think, well, of course it says grants. The biggest thing is things are misspelled, and it's .com. But, you know, you just got to be aware. Sometimes you might just need to take that extra second before you open up an email, because that's the last thing you want someone to do, is to get access to your information, or, you know, put spyware or something in your through your system, and now it's costing you no more money. I know you gotta go. He's like I gotta go. But you can call us if you need it. Don't let us.
The SBA got a website where your 8A certifications, and I've been trying to find somebody to answer this for me. They have a mentor pro-day program agreement. Do you know anything about that program?
Yeah, but it's for the 8A, so it's basically forming it's like a joint venture. Yes, it's a joint venture. Yeah. So you could work with an 8A if you know one, but actually, okay, so that's what that would help you do. And then, of course, as I said, it's kind of repetitive because we want to just keep hashing away and working with the government, getting your UEI, understanding the size standards, your compliance and your regulations, and of course, the self-certifications, you know, having your UEI number, your SAM.gov, meeting the size standards. These are all the things, and as I said, these are all in the PowerPoint slides that you will receive. Knowing your regulations, because once again, we are dealing with the federal government, so you need to know how we operate, the things that we are requiring of you, and of course, all the CFRs are there. And then, of course, there is a link to the federal acquisition regulation. Of course, all these things are now Googleable, so you can actually put it in what it is that you're looking for in that actual regulation, and it would actually pull up, and you can actually read that for yourself. So it's on you. I was like, I'm gonna speed. We're gonna be speed demons. And we understand you guys have to go. We'll send you the slides. Our cards are on the back, and if you have any questions, feel free to send any of us questions, and if we can't answer them, we'll make sure that we get your answer. Okay, thank you.
So basically, when we're talking about developing your market strategy, the first thing that I want to say before I even go on any further, when you start this whole process of contacting these different areas, SAM and all of this, they're going to start issuing you passwords. And you're going to need to know the site, you're going to need to know your username, and that. Make sure that you're storing them in a safe place. As this information is being issued to you, they're going to send you an email. Here's your cage code. Here's your UEI. Make sure that you're doing a screenshot of it. I tell people, put this information in a 3-ring binder. As you get your articles of organization from the state of Indiana, Secretary of State, make sure that you've got a copy of it, that you put it in a binder and start having it. The most successful clients that I have, when they walk in, they've got all of that information. When it comes to filling out an application, they're doing upload. They're not going back and searching for all of this information. Yes, you can have it on your computer. I'm going to tell you, you can have it there. 98% of my state disadvantaged business enterprises with NDOT. They say, I know exactly who you're dealing with when I see a 3-ring binder, because Diana's working with you, and she always insists that you have that. They're the most successful because they have all of their information together. So that's one thing. How do you develop a market strategy? You got to know your key players. You got to know who your key competitors are. You have to know how to market yourself. What sets you apart from the person that already has the contract or the competitor down the street? You need to create a capability statement that sets you apart. You need to develop an elevator pitch. I tell people all of that information needs to fit on the back of your business card. If you can talk the back of your business card with your NAICS, your unspec, your product service codes, if your cage code is on there, if your UEI is on there, you've already have the outline for your elevator pitch. What sets you apart? Oh, there we go. Where to find bidding opportunities? Where can you find bids for your industry? And the primary source to that would be SAM.gov. The other is knowing if you're in construction, perhaps it's NDOT, but knowing where USA spending, where are they spending money? The other thing is as a PTAC client, you get that information for free. We put all of that into our data system and it's sent to you on a daily email. We also do bid search matches. My state director yesterday sent me 7 different ones. And in those 7 different ones, here's the PTAC clients in your area. Send this out to them. It was everything from riprap that's going in at one of the lakes. Another one was Michigan City, a waterfront. Another one is construction downtown Indy. So there's lots of opportunities that are out there. Even a healthcare benefits. So we have those professional services. When you take notes, ask yourself the specific questions on there. Is this opportunity consistent with your business plan? Know your business plan. Can you beat your competitors? Is there a set aside? And do I meet the requirements? You're not going to know that unless you read the solicitation. I always tell people, look for 3 or 4 different words. Must, should, provide. Because those are going to be key words that's going to help you in knowing whether or not you can fulfill the requirements. Is the risk manageable? If it's going to take all of your resources, the day the young man who sold batteries to the Coast Guard called me and said, Diana, I just won a contract for Fort Drum and I've sold them an asphalt paver. I don't know how many of you know what the cost of an asphalt paver is. But I said, yeah. Upwards to 400, and I said, do you have the resources for that? Yeah, I've got it all under control. Okay, he did. He was successful. It was a great story, a great win for him. But the risk made this person go, oh, my heart beat a lot faster. Can you make money doing it? Can you make money and provide for your workers? Don't take a job because you want a contract award. It sounds great. I know it's exciting and I jump up and down. I celebrate with you as a client when you call me and say, I did it. I have a gal that I've been working with for 4 years. She finally just got her 8A certification. She has been in business. She's a sound commercial. She called me and said, Diane, I have my very first award. It's in Chesterton. I went, yay! We did the happy dance together. The key thing is, can I perform this contract? So in doing this, you need to read the solicitation, take notes, read it again, draft up a 1-page proposal timeline. make sure that you have an outline of what it's going to take. Who's going to be assigned to the task of completing that? Follow the direction. Every single solicitation will have its own set of directions. You cannot cookie cut this. Okay, there's no template that's going to allow you to answer multiple of these in one swoop. It's not. You have to submit it correctly and you have to be on time. If it's 1 second after the allowable time, it's done. The next one is performing that contract. You need to read the contract, take notes. I always tell people, ask for that debriefing, just like you would if you didn't win the award. You have 3 days to ask for a debriefing if you didn't win. What can I do better? But if you win a contract, it's even more important to ask for that meeting and be on the same page as that contracting officer. Know what you're up against. The other thing is, do not start. Once you have received the award, request that orientation, and this is like a debriefing. It ensures that both people are on the same page. Do not start until the contract is signed. Very, very critical. Don't think you're going to get a head start, incur costs, and then something go wrong because you're going to be eating that cost. So do not start anything until that contract is signed. A notice award is not the same as a contract signed. Yes, sir.
Like, for instance, something that happened to us. We had a contract with Indigo to install all of the driver protective barriers in Indianapolis. Even after the contract was signed, they changed the rule, so to speak, the operating hours. Ended up paying time and a half a year, and I did the job at straight time. And we were told late and email form that either we agree to any changes they make or we'll have an awarded contract with no work.
Well, each one has its own, and there again, you have to look at what the original contract said. And Indigo is a city, so it would go back to the city of Indianapolis, and you would have to follow their recourse if there was a violation to that.
The actual recourse will come through our attorney, trying to sue for the amount of money that they owe us. However, he told us that we go bankrupt trying to win because the city has more money. So it's a small business. Yeah, Indigo has more money, so they bankrupt us if we try to sue them for it. Is there another recourse that, on a state level or a larger level that makes things like that accountable to small businesses like us? Because they hurt us for over $140,000. We can't afford it like that.
And unfortunately, I would love to say I have the appropriate answer for that, but it's on an individual case. And as far as saying, is there someone out there that can be an advocate for you? It would, there again, somewhat, if you have some certification, some of those folks can act on your behalf. So that would be one avenue that I would recommend. The other is your attorney. You have to follow I'm not an attorney, so I can't dispute what he said, but there again, it's having somebody that's an advocate for you. I know that if it would be a federal contract and there was a change, I've had people, here's an example. I had a company that is in Hammond, Indiana, Root Brothers, and they had a contract and they changed at the last minute. They were sending over these cases and they were kits. And when the shipping, they thought they were putting them all on pallets and ship wrapping them. And then they said, no, all of those cases had to be in a wooden case. And that added $39 in a wooden case. It was just basically wooden slats that went over to protect the case. but it had to be on there. So they did appeal and they did have that change order. But that's just one scenario. Each case, you know, you have to go back to look and see what the rules and regulations to that specific solicitation will allow you. And who is your advocate at that point?
She's no longer there. She was the diversity and inclusion chief for Indigo.
Okay, so
She's no longer there.
and so that would have been my recommendation at the time. How long ago has that been?
It was in 2021, and actually, when we dealt with the diversity coordinator, she said there wasn't much that she could do because it was her bosses that we took issue with that were the CEO and CFO.
So, like I said, I wish I had an answer, and I don't. There's going to be those exceptions to the rules. We hope that we're creating a better system for our small businesses.
I guess that's probably more of a question. How with your system, if one run into such issues?
There is recourse in your system.
As far as federal, yes.
Okay.
As far as federal.
Okay. That I guess that was my question. I didn't.
And I'll tell you, I have a number of small businesses that come in and they soon realize, like my one that's now called KPIM. When she came to me, she wanted to mow the center median for NDOT and thought that was going to be her pie in the sky. To this day, she has not mowed one center median. But what she did find out in the process is that she can do soil preparation and she can do ADA sidewalks and she can do all of these different things with all of these different agencies, federal. The federal realm has provided more opportunity for her than what it did at the state level. And that's just one case scenario. I have another person who started out and he's done nothing but state contracts and is very satisfied, doing quite well. So it's each individual business has to find their niche and have to find out, you know, what's going on. In this final thought, we need to keep your registrations current and accurate. I cannot stress this enough. When it comes to that SAM registration, I'm going to tell you right now, if I was in business, I would set up a tickler and I would be doing it every 6 months. I would not wait for that year to come around. Keep that absolutely current and accurate. You must market your company to be successful in government contracting. You must market. Nobody else is going to do this for you but you. And in marketing, proposal preparation, focus on what sets you apart. What makes you unique? What's going to give them the biggest bang for their buck with your company? That's how I explain it to people. Read the solicitation, highlight key points, read it again. Subcontracting is a way to break in, working with different people. I have it all the time. You know, we've got this one coming up with AM General, and they're going to start looking. Their office of small business is going to start reaching out to people. They're going to have to. So those are opportunities. When they have those networking, oftentimes they're going to call them industry days. You need to take advantage of it. Get everything in writing. Don't take a verbal change. Make sure that you have it in writing. Learn from your experiences. Oftentimes, those are the most painful, the most costly, but we learn from them. And of course, PTAC is here to offer you free assistance and let you know that federally and state that there's help available. Organize your government procurement action plan. We ask that you would register with as a PTAC client. That's just as much as giving me information. Research your North American industry classification codes. your unspec, your product service codes, registration with the Secretary of State, become an Indiana vendor, develop government capability statement. I cannot emphasize this enough. This capability statement is critical. And so they're going to ask for it in so many different ways. So you need to make sure that you have one created. If you're a DBE, disadvantaged business enterprise, they will give you assistance for a free capability statement. So that is an advantage of becoming a DBE with the state of Indiana. Make sure that you're registered in SAM. Make sure you're applying for all of the certifications that you're eligible for. Consider potential joint ventures. There's proposal preparation, workshops and seminars, and marketing your service and your products to local, state, and federal government. We're located, I am in section number 2, but we have offices all throughout the state. And if you can't get a hold of me and it's an urgent mode, here's all the information that they can help you as well.
Diane, are we in 2 or are we in 3?
We are actually in 2.
We are here in South Bend.
We're in 2.
Okay.
North Central region.
Oh, we're North Central.
North Central
Yeah.
and South Bend.
Thank you.
Yes.
My takeaway.
Are you able to register in more than one PTAC office, or can you just work with one PTAC office?
You can work with more than one. Wherever your main, here we go again. Because you say that you're already working with Dave, and that's fine.
So we would like to work with you as well, so can we work with more than one office?
And
But
what they're going to do is they're going to go to, where is your business, your primary location for your business? Because if you're with Nate is going to have to enter an Indianapolis address for you. And so that's going to conflict with what you have entered as, that's the way my Cornerstone Construction, when they first started, they were in Gary.
We'll talk about Cornerstone.
that's Nick. Yeah, we met Nick.
Okay, so anyway, he started in Gary, and I had him as a client. One of my very first clients. My very first one to get an AA. I was so proud. And then within 60 days, he moved to Indy. So Nate got to claiming. So that was okay. You know what? It's all one. We work well as a team. So if you need assistance up here, I'm more than happy to help you out.
Okay.
I have people who work with me, and that's fine.
Tell your boss that she would work with us.
You know what? I live in Tifton, which is right above. So I work with people from all over. I have several Indy clients. I have Lafayette clients. I have Valpo clients. Napanee, Chippewa. How many of you have heard of Madairyville? It's off of 421. You blink your eyes and you're through it. And Madairyville happens to be a hub zone.
The whole city?
The whole little road.
One block.
You got it. It actually reaches 2 blocks.
That's okay.
Okay. BRW Corp is now in Madairyville. Yeah. So anyway, that's it. But this is my contact information that you can get a hold of me. I know we've kept you here a long time today. We've given you a tremendous amount of information, but I'm going to let Sharon come up and close.
No, all I want to say is I thank you all for staying with us. I know we've given you a lot of information, as I said, and we keep reiterating that we are here to help you. So, if you're trying to figure out which certification is best for me, we can kind of help you walk you through that. When you're trying to figure out the certification process for the application, we're here for you to help you. if you are in contact with James and you're talking to James and James is like, Sharon, you need help, I'll figure out if I can help him, I'll get with Diana, I'll get with Tawana, I'll get with anyone, or if someone has an application like yours that's stuck, I will make the call to figure out where you are, because our goal is we're already getting paid. You're paying us from your tax dollars. So we're here to serve. And we want to make sure that all of our small businesses are successful, because when you're successful, you're contributing and you're growing the area in which you live, in which you work, the people who are getting jobs. And we want to, and that's our goal. And that's our main goal. And we want to do all that we can to help you. So whether that's to start, because there were some people that haven't started and were thinking about starting, we want to make sure that you're starting the right way, that you're filling out all the, you're registering and with the Secretary of State, you're registering with cities, you're doing all the things properly. And we want to make sure that we help. Of course, we're here in times of disaster. All of us have heard disasters. I've been in, where was I? I've been in St. Croix, Tawana's been in Florida, Diana's been all over, we've been all over. I've been in North Carolina, assisting on disasters. So we don't want to talk about them, but they're real. So when you're doing your business, we want to make sure that, keeping stuff up off the floor, everything's not just in your computer, or everything's just not in your file cabinet. So we want to make sure you're successful all the way around. So I'm going to send the slides out. I'll be in Gary tomorrow. Tawana and I'll be in Gary tomorrow. So you'll probably get the slides on Friday, or probably Friday. And I do have an email. My email is shared. I'm going to email the slides. And that's why we did Death by PowerPoint, so that you can kind of walk through and you can see, oh, they said I need a UEI. I need to know my NAICS codes. I can click on my NAICS codes. I can go to, and I know what I'm doing. I can go to those particular websites to find procurement opportunities. We do have our business cards back there. All three of us do. So we're just here to help, and we're sincere about our small business to grow. And as you can see, Diana's everywhere. She's helping small businesses, no matter your size. And we're just here, and we've got the same stories where we're just here to try to help small businesses grow. We're going to be back, hopefully, doing workshops on financing, exporting. We're doing all kinds of things. So I tell people, if you're making something that goes into something that's being exported, you are an exporter, whether you know it or not. So we just want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can. If there's something that there's a subject that you want to know about that I didn't mention or Diana didn't mention, you get with James and we can figure out if we can't deliver the message, that we'll find someone that actually can.
The other thing that I want to tell you is I do have an office here in South Bend, 209 North Main. So, and I'm usually there on Tuesdays or Thursdays. So it depends on my schedule, but I am in South Bend on most generally Tuesdays.
And I want to say I thank you, James, because I've been gone from the state of Indiana. I was in.
They haven't given me new cards yet.
Years. He was the first person that I called when I got back, and I said I'm ready to work. And I know he can find businesses that are wanting to learn how to work the procurement world, and they're ready to learn, and they're eager to learn, and they're ready to grow. So I thank you, Pastor Harvey, for the impact for Project Impact, for all that you do.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Indiana PTech will give you a roadmap.
You want to get the link? Okay.
Get stop talking so I can answer.
Okay.
And I think we're done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Like I say, that's a lot of information. We just want to.
Thank you all, because I know both of y'all really, really big.
That's okay. I do appreciate